Good Sunday morning to all. I have our opening prayer from the Home Center ministerial team, our Minister of Prayer, Reverend Joe Peinkofer. As we open this morning's service, dream big, dream beautiful, dream the most perfect world, for we are creating perfection in God's eyes as only His children would. In your mind, take a walk through a flower garden, and you will see all the colors of the rainbow displayed in beautiful abundance for your delight. Take a moment and realize you are experiencing the perfection of your creation, God's creation. As light workers, it is our privilege to hold the light and remain positive, ensuring this creation endures for all time. Now, as we end our prayer, know and feel the energy in motion, the emotion, God's emotion, as God presents this creation to us as our reality. A quite beautiful gift, light workers, wouldn't you say? In God and Christ, love and light. Thank you all. Amen. And now I turn it over to Reverend Madge.
Hello all, and thank you for being here with us on this Sunday morning. So our service today is going to be all three of us. It's going to be Reverend Connie and also Reverend Jay Smith. So we're going to all share a message that is on the topic of moving forward. The name of my topic is Staying in Grace. So as this lockdown in our society is lifting, I want to encourage everyone to stay centered and to stay in grace. Stay within that grace that is within you. And there are so many gifts that have been realized during this time of stopping everything and staying home. And I really want to pray, I really am praying that we can hold on to the gifts and we can continue to see this time of reflection and introspection as a beautiful time. If you remember at the beginning of this event, I gave a message where I shared information that I received from Spirit that was from a metaphysical point of view about what is happening. And in this vision, I was shown a book, and at the top of the page of this book were the numbers 45, 46, and 47. And in numerology, these numbers equal 1, 2, and 3. And so metaphysically, number 9 represents the ending of a cycle, the number 1 represents the beginning of a new cycle, and number 2 represents coming into right relationship. So I had the understanding that humanity is being birthed, which I believe we really are, and we still are in the birthing process, and we're moving forward into more of an open environment, but we're still birthing. We've been in our homes more than we have ever done before, and people have really rooted into their survivorship, really rooted into their security, as Reverend Kendra talked about on Wednesday night. So when we go into the stores, is an example of rooting into our survivorship. We go into the stores and they're a little sparse on the food. But we go into the other parts of the stores, particularly Fred Meyer. I wandered through the other part of the stores and the clothing and the housewares, and I thought it was a ghost town. Mm-hmm. There was nobody in there. And I thought, wow, I have never seen it like this. But the food side, the survivorship side, has been really crowded. But the garden section has opened up, and it's very busy. And that speaks again to the need for self-sufficiency and the rooting down into the earth. I had a friend tell me the other day that she and her husband purchased a freezer. Well, they don't get it until August because all the freezers are sold out. So collectively, everybody's really thinking about the basics of life. They're thinking about their food supply. And they're not buying the decorations that hang on the wall, and they're not buying the fancy clothes. They're buying the basics, the primary basics. So I share this as an example of how rooted into the basics we have become during this period of time of staying at home. Our focus has been to shift back into the basics of living, where food, shelter, and family are the most important. And now that we're starting to open up again, I'm really encouraging people not to go crazy. Don't go crazy. Even on my way here, I went past a tavern and the parking lot's packed. And I'm thinking to myself, there seems to be more cars than they have space to keep people 6 feet apart. And I'm sure they're not wearing their masks while they're drinking and eating. So I think maybe we should just name this place Home Center Tavern, and then we can hold services. I'm kidding, but kind of kidding. I mean, it's like, really? But anyway, on the light side, that's what I was thinking. But I really encourage everyone to hold on to the lessons that they learned during this time, to keep your closeness to your children. They need you. Those children need you, and you need them, and to be present with them, to continue the presence of being with your children the way that you've had to be during this period of time when they're not in school and you're probably working remotely. So, and rather than just waiting and tolerating them until they have an opportunity to go back to school, keep the treasures and the values of what you've gained with them and continue to teach them the values of your family, the values of them as a human being. And don't let go of that. When this shutdown started, someone close to me noticed that her friends were talking about being parents out on Facebook, and they were posting about how stressed they were because they had kids at home, how the kids were driving them crazy, and all the negative things about having kids at home with them. And she said to me, she said, all they're doing is displaying their utter failure as parents. They can't stand their own kids. They don't know how to be with their own kids. And all they can do is wait until schools open up so they can get rid of their kids again. And the gyms open up so they can go back to spend an hour or two at the gym every night. So she said how embarrassing it is in her mind that they're putting out this utter display of their failure of their parenthood. So I thought, that's a very interesting perspective. I hadn't really thought of it that way. But I thought how interesting it is that we have grown so comfortable with not knowing how to be around our own kids and not knowing what to do with our own kids when we are with them, not knowing how to parent. So during this period of time, I really hope that parenting has started to take in, that we've become more appreciative of our children. On the flip side, I've seen more families bicycling together. It's so lovely to see all those little munchkins and daddy at the end and mommy at the front taking the kids for a bicycle ride. So don't lose that. Don't slide back to the way it was before. Keep that treasure close to you. Your kids need it and you need it. And bullying and childhood violence will dramatically continue to drop with this closeness that the children have with the family structure and with the family dynamic, and having parents with greater supervision over them. The other day I was talking to a clerk in the grocery store, and I asked her if people were buying groceries differently, and she said they absolutely are. And I said, how is it different? She said, people are actually buying food to cook. And I thought, well, that's a novel idea. How interesting is that? And I thought, well, that's lovely. Don't lose that. Don't lose that cooking for your family. Because as you cook for your family, you're putting your love, you're putting your intention and attention into the nourishment of their body. And it nourishes them on all levels. It nourishes them spiritually and emotionally, and besides physically. And if I'm thinking as an example of how this kind of works, have you ever had anything at somebody's house that was absolutely delicious, and they share your recipe, their recipe with you, you take it home, you cook it, and it's just not the same. It's good, but it's not the same. Well, then not the same is it doesn't have their energy in it. If they were in love with the cooking process and they were in love with sharing this delicious food with the people that were there, that food is going to take that energy on, and because it's in your resonant field, and that love and that attention is going to nourish the people who eat it. So really keep up those good habits of cooking real food for your family. Don't let it go now just because the fast food at restaurants open up. Take ownership of the positive changes that you've experienced and continue to incorporate them into how you move forward through this opening up process. We learned it's not just about the clothes we wear. It's not just about the acrylic nails that have now fallen off your fingers or the expensive vacation that got canceled. And by now, hopefully, you've grown to have a deep appreciation for your inner light, for your family, and for the connection with the divine, that you've had time to think about and reflect on what really is important in this life. We used to be too busy to visit our elders in the homes, and now that everything's shut down, you can't go visit them, and now it's terrible. So keep up the visiting with you, the desire and the time to visit with your elders that are in these homes, and don't let that slide away either. So one of the tools that came to mind as I was thinking about this that I want to do for myself as well is I recommend writing down the things that have been most changed in you during this period of time. What are the good things that you have found in this time of being at home? And what is it that you value? And pledge to yourself, pledge to your family that you're going to keep these up. And it's better than a New Year's resolution. It's going to be like a COVID resolution, which is even better. So as you move forward into this freeing up time, stay with those values. Continue to hold dear to the things that were the most positive things that came out of this for you, because everyone has had good things that has happened to them. Consciously choose to stay in grace now and going forward into this new era. Thank you. Turn it over to Reverend Connie Walker.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to continue with our moving forward theme by talking about the pioneer spirit. Perhaps like those brave people who packed a covered wagon and came across the United States to build a new life for themselves in Oregon, we could take an adventurous spirit of the pioneers in working on our future. Many of us have been contemplating over the last few weeks and months some of our hopes and our dreams for the future. Perhaps like myself, you may have found yourself contemplating many possibilities. Some may have been small and simple, like looking for a new pair of shoes once the stores open. Or they could have been bigger, like moving into a new house. Or even bigger yet, like taking a trip to the South Pole. Or maybe a big, grand dream, like traveling out into outer space. I know I have thought about all of these ideas and more. You might ask yourself, what am I most passionate about? What brings me joy and excitement just thinking about doing it? Our ancestors who came west to Oregon certainly were fulfilling their dreams and their hopes. They were on an adventure. They were bound for something new in their lives. This took courage to overcome their fears of the unknown. You might say they had this pioneer spirit in their souls. When they set a goal to find a wagon train and travel all the way along that hard trail west, they were thinking a new dream into being. My own adventure to travel to Oregon began many years ago, and it took place in a camper, not a covered wagon. However, it wasn't without some mishaps, even though it was a fine adventure. As we got our camper coming across the bridge over the Columbia River, something went terribly wrong and it stalled right there in the middle of the bridge. So we had to call for help. And we had a tow truck come, and the driver was the nicest man. He not only was going to make sure that our camper got to a shop where it could be fixed and repaired, but that we got to a hotel that had a restaurant because it was dinner time. It was time to find a place to eat. And we did get the camper fixed and we did continue our journey. But you know, when the pioneers came to the crossing of the Columbia River, it was a very big challenge for them. And they had to help one another. They had to lower their wagons down into the gorge and ferry them across the river to the other side to continue their journey. In an article, Cultivating a Pioneer Mindset, written by Julie Kendrich for the Review magazine, she gave 8 different ways to embrace the pioneer mindset, she called it. I had given some of these a metaphysical twist, and I feel that they can be very good tools to move you forward on your adventure. The first one is trying something new. Doing something new always involves a learning experience that creates new pathways in our brain. By choosing something you are truly passionate about and learning it, it can be a fun experience. It can be an exciting adventure. And it may even lead you to a new career. Recently, our stove broke, and I like to cook. And this time at being home was giving me an opportunity to try out some new recipes. My husband ordered a new stove for us, and when it came, I was surprised to find out that it had 5 burners on it and 2 different types of oven, one of them a convection oven. And so I had these burners that were fast boil and a convection oven that I'd never cooked on before. Well, my first 2 tries with those objects turned my food into burnt offerings. This also has a computerized panel on it with 16 different settings that I have to learn about. So it's been quite an adventure with my new stove. Number 2 is share with a friend. Telling a friend about a goal that you've set for yourself and asking them to help support you in bringing that goal to fruition can be very helpful. And it gives your friend the opportunity to share with you in this project. Number 3 is less in the wagon and more in your memories. My interpretation on this one was that it means we need to look at all of these possessions that we have in our houses. I mean, many of us, at least in my neighborhood, have overflowed into our garages, and consequently, the streets are lined with all of these vehicles these days. It certainly seems like it's a time to look at what can we clear, what clutter do we have, because everything we own owns a little piece of us, our energy. One of the ideas I saw about treasured items that you may want to down-clutter is that you can't take a photograph of them and save the photographs, because looking at the photograph will help you bring up the memory and the feelings. Number 4 is help others along the trail. Giving our time and our talents to help others along the way, whether it is to help them achieve a goal needed in the physical reality or to help them along their spiritual path. It always brings an uplifting feeling to our own heart when we help others. And as Kendra spoke about, this is something that we can all do. We can all help one another. That's very much been a part of what's been going on in our world right now, is the need to reach out and help one another. Moving on to number 6, or actually number 5, step up to take risks. Overcoming our fear of the unknown and taking risks can be difficult for adults. However, taking risks allows us to grow and learn through new experiences and can promote self-confidence. The senior staff of ministers here at the Home Center are very proud of the risk all 7 of our new ministers have been willing to take as they experience speaking to our congregants for the first time this month. Number 6, courage under pressure. There is a strong link between confidence and fear. And the biggest thing we've been fighting right now in our world is fear. Once we are able to overcome that fear, we find a new level of confidence within ourselves. Hopefully we can move forward in our lives now with greater confidence and abilities as we embrace something new. A few years ago, I read a series of books written by a woman about a group of 7 pioneer women. In this story, they start out from the east and they go west with a wagon train, and they encounter a pandemic of cholera comes. And the women lose their husbands. It seemed to affect the men rather than the women of this particular train. There's one elderly gentleman left and one young boy that's about to enter manhood. They start out and they lose their courage. How are we going to do this? And they turn back and they get as far as where they've buried their husbands, and they stop and they talk it over. There's one particular woman that tends to lead this group named Maisie. Maisie's kind of an interesting character. Rather than wearing the traditional long dresses, she runs around in her red bloomers. And she talks to the women and they decide, yes, we can do this. And they move forward. That's where we are. Yes, we can do this. We can recreate a much better world than that which we were experiencing before this virus. We can do that. Number 7 is stand tall. Confidence can be gained not only by standing up straight and tall, but by sitting up straight and tall. Researchers tell us this makes us feel more powerful. Metaphysically, one could say having your spine straight allows for a strong connection with the divine creative force of the universe, giving us the ability to create our dreams, our desires. So stand tall in your world. And number 8 is say thanks, gratitude. We certainly have talked about gratitude a lot from this pulpit. This is something that is beneficial to practice whether you are a pioneer or not. It helps one to have a better adventure in their life. I wish you all a safe and a happy future as you move forward with that pioneer spirit within your heart. And now I ask Reverend Jay to come forward and give us his message.
Well, good morning. I wonder if you all have had the great experience I just had. I listened to the other 2 speakers and they told you about my speech. So I'm not going to kind of veer off from what I was going to talk about because I thought, there goes one, there goes one, there goes one. And that's a good thing because I want to get down to the basics. I was born in 1930, 90 years ago. And we started out with the Great Depression for 10 years, and all we had was God and each other because families had to get together because there was no money. There was nothing. So we had this, and it got the whole community. We lived in a community. I had more grandmothers than you could ever send a stick at. And they kept us on the path saying, this isn't forever. This isn't forever. And then we had World War II. All that rationing. And we had Kay Smith singing, God Bless America. And I thought, well, okay, we gotta keep going with God because that's the only way we're going to survive this. And then we get out of that. Then we jumped into the Cold War. And I thought, oh my, when are they ever going to knock off this being angry and let's get back to humanity? And then they jumped into the Korean War, and I quickly joined the Navy because I didn't want to walk to my death. I'll ride, and I'll at least be clean when they sink the boat. I'll be nice and clean. I don't have to be dirty. And then I got out of that, and they put me in the service, and then we went on to the Vietnam War, and they keep going. And we just finished up with this, and these are troubled times. I got to tell you, I've heard for 90 years, 90 years, this has been troubled times. I'd like to get to the point where we all decide we've had enough, up to here, and play the game in South Pacific. Remember that song the gal sang, she was going to wash that man right out of their hair? Well, why don't we start taking showers and washing ourselves down and says, I'm going to wash all of these troubled times out and come back to community and care about one another and bring in a partner. I brought in God. People used to say, who's your person that you keep talking to? And I said, I talk to God. And they're looking at me and they said, what? I said, that guy is standing right there. And he kind of keeps whispering in my ear from time to time. And one time and some of you don't have a little trouble with this, but one time he sent me my grandmother, who died 3 months after I was born, to show up and to talk to me in my days of being afraid. And all she said, all you got to do is just say, God, I need help. And just listen. And the help comes. And it helps you get through it. And this is what we should be doing, right even now. And what's the glorious part is, we are coming out of this thing for the summer. How many of us that go to the beach, and you know when you go to the beach, you get all sticky with that surf, sea salt air and everything else? Well, you know, when you start away from there, you feel different. And what that sea salt done is clean out all the negative energies around you. So when you're out there breathing this in and playing on the beach, think about being clean, washed clean, and being baptized, if nothing more, and back to humanity, the real person you are. Not this person that's fighting for survival, but the real person who has a heart bigger than anyone could ever see, but it's been smothered by humanities from time to time. Well, we're bigger than that. That's why we have the ocean so close. And then some of us, I found something the other day, some years back, called pranic healing. And I used to do it anyway. I'd go out and hug a tree and play a game of let's trade. I'll trade you my garbage, you trade you your oxygen, and we just play the game. And I found out there was a way of being cleansed and healed. And one day, just the thought comes, my whole physical body, and yours was made from Mother Earth. All of these trees, plants, everything out there is part of you. And that's what's wonderful about people who are going to start cooking again. They're going to have it all been bleeded out by cooking it so much it is not even, it's mush. I don't know about you. I like mine to be a little crunchy. And we had rhubarb the other day, and that was a great delight to me because I like things that's tarty. Look at all the things that we have. And we put our attention on the things that cause us to be upset, and that gives it power. Why don't we put on this other side, when God says this, look it, I give you the beauty of the earth. All these beautiful plants. And we were listening to, on Wednesday, our person gave a talk on going into the spiritual garden. And you can be anything you want, all the roses or whatever. And why not have that? Why are we looking at the garbage yard when we could be listening and looking at our own field of glory? What do you want? You can have it. The door is open. I'm one of us that's been walking like this. My parents used to say to me one day when I was in my 40s, and they said, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I said, I don't know. I haven't got there yet. And they said, yeah, but you've changed jobs. And you keep changing all the time. You're quitting, you're going to Oregon? Well, I said, that's your problem. It's not mine. Because when I'm here, I came out here to go to school, it's like a feeling of being in the garden. Whatever you want, it's here. I can be up and down the coast in 50 miles, right here in Oregon. I can be the desert, I can be the cold water in the ocean, I can be every place you want to be, right here, 50 miles. And everybody says, well, what's so special about it? Well, I tell you, there's 49 more states. You should try it, all of them. The greatest thrill to me, and probably some people look at me and raise their hand. I worked with all kinds of different nationalities. And one of the women that worked in my department that came and worked for us, she couldn't believe that I treated her so equally. And she was an Afro-American. And the day I quit, she come up and she threw her arms around me and she says, I can't do this when you were my boss. And she gave me a big kiss. And she thought, let's see how he handles this. And I kissed her back. And she looked at me and says, you're real? I said, why not? Because you have a product. Inside you, everyone has something special. That's why we came here. That's why community is so important. And that's why I'm running out of time. I run out of time real quick. So let's look at your community, you. Me, myself, and I. That's my community. And then I invite you in too. So let's go into a meditation together. Sit us down and just close your eyes. And just think about this. I lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. And I ask in this spiritual garden that we listen to, I need help with this. Show me, I'm going to do my part. Don't do it for me. Show me. I'm going to tie my own shoes. Show me how to use the true skills that I have. Not what other people thought I should be, but what fits me, that makes me feel happy to be here, makes me feel proud of looking at something and saying, I did that. And I did it with one of God's angels who sat and talked to me. Or all of a sudden they give me an idea and I went with it. Look at the joy of saying, I did that. I did that. And that's what's the most joy about being here. Is when you walk with your Creator and He's telling you, you are more than what you say you are right now, because you have unlimited opportunities to listen to whatever phase that you want to explore within your ability to perform. Why not be the best? I don't compete with anyone. I don't care who takes the joy of saying, I did that, when they didn't. I did, maybe. I used to have a boss. He said, I used to give him this. When I do it right, you take the bows, and when I do it wrong, I'll take the blame. In 5 years, I only had one thing I had to take the blame for. I had the privilege of learning how to perform the task with my God partner. That was the most important. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the title. I did it. And that's what I like about you who are listening to me today. You have done this before. And I know you're going to continually doing it as you walk down the path and through the garden and you pull from Mother Earth and you pull the energy from the trees, from every place around. You are going to make us proud. Not as proud as you see yourself being proud, because there is no greater joy than saying, I did it. I did that. May you be blessed with the courage to be all that you can be, because God knows He put you here to show it off. Amen. Now, kind of hope that you enjoyed our journey this day with Madge taking down through her street and down through the Pioneers, and me inventing things as I'm going along. I'm looking at, I kept scratching things off, and I kept thinking, they covered that, they covered that. But what it is here is to live life without all the fears that generated this spring, and how to screen out all that fake reports and drama. With your God as your protector, that's what we're trying to tell you. Look what other people have done it, even in dire straits or being forced to without any choices. When they had one of them talking about cholera and wiped out most of the men, the women stepped up and did it. Every one of us have a gift and a talent. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And when we go into the summer month, let's do it with some real intelligence and do it safely, because we want you to stay around. We have to play it safe, because even this fall, when the fruits of our vines and the fruits of the earth that replenish us and make us celebrate Christmas and Halloween in the fall, we want us all to be here, because you make this place a better place. Thank you for being with me tonight.